Hello, hello. You are tuned again. This is another Tuesday, and you're tuned to All Hands on Deck. And of course, normally seated in this chair is Reverend Ira J. Ackery, and we of course extend our well wishes to Reverend Ackery, and we know he's on the mend and he's healing. He of course is the CEO of GSJ Family Life Center, and so that number there 773. 773-378-3300. That's the number. All right, this is All Hands on Deck, and we're delighted to be here. It's another Tuesday, and of course, we know with all of the myriad of problems that we have going on in urban America today and in our communities, that we need all hands on deck, and that means a lot of great people doing a lot of great work. And we got a young man here that is doing a lot of good work here in the Chicagoland area. Right now, he's based out of Oak Park, but he's worked all over the metropolitan area. The name of his company is Global Community Associates, and he is the CEO. And this is his vision. This is really his ministry, his work. That he's doing in consulting and helping young people. So we want to welcome today, Brother Stephen Jackson is in the house.
Thank you.
As we talk again about All Hands on Deck. Your company is Global Community Associates, and this is something that you birthed that really came out of a vision. Talk a little bit about your own personal life, how you your own process of transformation.
I grew up in service, so I always had a strong background. My father was a minister in the Austin community. We moved from Texas, Grand Prairie, Texas, suburb of Dallas.
How old were you when you moved up?
11.
11, okay.
11, so it was a culture shock moving from a suburb of Texas to the west
Big
side
city.
of Chicago in '88.
The big city.
The big city, yeah. And the only thing I knew about Chicago was good times.
Mm-hmm.
So
that would be the J.J. Jackson good times, you know,
Right.
not necessarily good times,
right.
but yeah, sitcom.
Yeah, but my parents moved from the west side of Chicago to Oak Park in order to get me a better education, so I wouldn't have to go to CPS schools or Chicago public schools. So I moved to Oak Park, and at that time, I became involved in gangs. At that
In
time.
Oak Park?
In Oak Park. Yes, in Oak Park.
So I mean, even the environment can be deceiving in terms of the challenges that young people face. Because even in Oak Park, you had the pressure of having to even be a part of a gang.
So make no mistake about it. It doesn't matter where you're from or who you are. If you're a black male, this is what the culture promotes. The culture promotes that type of behavior, and it's more socially acceptable. So you
almost to fit in,
right?
You have to entertain it, or you're really going to be an outlier.
Right, and so that's what happened when I moved to Oak Park. I was affiliated before Oak Park when I lived in the city, but once we moved to Oak Park, I actually became an active gang member. I was blessed in, and it was a lot of different things happening in the community at the time. '95.
How old were you then, roughly?
When I moved there in Oak Park, I was a sophomore, so I was about 14.
About 14 years old.
Yeah. And so after I graduated, I did eventually graduate, but after I was graduated, in 1995, there was a murder that happened in the Oak Park community in back of a police station. So I was arrested for that in connection with that, but I wasn't charged.
You were arrested in connection with
right,
that.
But I wasn't charged with it because I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And
but it was terrifying, wasn't it?
At the time, it was culture. It was a culture. What people don't realize, in 1994, the year I graduated, I think we were close to almost 1,000 murders annually.
Yeah.
And then we look at the murder rate now, which is half of that. But if you look at the way media is portraying it,
Absolutely.
you would think that this is the worst it's ever been, when that's just not the case. So what eventually happened was I was arrested in '98 and was sentenced to 25 years in prison and did 12 years in prison. So after I was released from prison, and while I was in prison, I edified myself as much as I could.
So you did a dozen years in prison.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so I taught myself Spanish. I learned how to write with my left hand. I got 2 degrees, 4 trades. We started a spoken word club, a book club. We did, and that's why I got my programming background. We started doing programming in there. And when I was released, I was working at retail. I got fired from that because of my background. And then eventually started donating my time while parking cars on the side, and built a reputation and name for myself and the work that I was doing in the community.
Incredible. And
then eventually branched out on my own.
I want to tell you something, Stephen. This is one incredible story. And I mean, there are a lot of themes there. You know, even with all the pressure that you had, and even some of the things you succumbed to, and then being incarcerated, but making the best out of a bad situation. I mean, if I heard you correctly, you learned to speak Spanish while you were incarcerated.
Yes.
And you learned several trades.
Yeah. No, but the thing that really, really sustained me was writing. I wrote every day for 11 years.
Wow.
And I still write every day now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Journal.
I'm pretty sure you read the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Most definitely.
And I want to tell you, I just met this young man today, and while we were, preparing to come on this show, he had a book on Julius Rosenwald that he's reading, and so it's very. You always notice a man who's a reader, and I think not often do we realize how a big part that has been really a black manhood that is not recognized today, particularly among parts of our community. The legacy of Paul Robeson, or we just lost Muhammad Ali, and I remember just this absolutely iconic photo of the great athletes of an era when I was growing up, of Muhammad Ali and Kirk Flood, who really opened up free agency for all professional athletes, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Jim Brown. Where athletes, where you had scholars who were athletic and who were readers. And it kind of reminds me of that. It almost reminds me of the autobiography of Malcolm X, and how awesome it is, for somebody to be able to really grow through the worst. So who inspired you during that time? Who are some of the folks who you kind of look to? And we're glad for you tuning us in. This is All Hands on Deck. And, of course, you can call in. Our number is on the screen there, 312-738-1060. And we're talking to a fabulous young man here, Mr. Stephen Richardson, who is the CEO, Stephen Jackson, who is the CEO of Global Community Associates. Talk a little bit about what your company does again.
We do youth development program. We do a bunch of things. So the idea initially for the program was to offer services, quality service, or to be
for young people,
for people in general. That's the premise of the company, Global Community. Too often, community is not promoted. It's spoken of, but it's not actualized.
So you're saying people segment people by generations and so on, but you're looking at holistically the community.
Yes, sir.
Multi-generational.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You got the picture.
That's great. No, it's a great vision. And so talk a little bit about. I was going into another part of the incredible story that you shared, the testimony that's your life, and the ongoing testimony, because it's not over yet, and the best is still yet to come, I'm sure.
Most definitely.
But who inspired you, especially during some of those times when you were maybe at some of your lowest points, when you felt challenged and were looking for your way?
My parents, my mother, father, Arthur and Shirley Jackson, were the people that really, really, really were constant. They taught me consistency. They taught me integrity.
Parents are important.
Most definitely. They taught me integrity.
And almost, you almost can't say enough about it. They almost can help you trump anything. Good parents.
Foundation.
Yeah.
Is essential.
Yeah. So your mom and your dad, any other folks that you would say who inspired you to be the person that you are today, especially at your low points. So at your lowest points, it was your parents that you drew inspiration for, knowing that they never gave up on you.
It was also a person that was in greater confinement with me as well. One of my mentors named Barnett Carney.
Okay.
A big figure. Right when I was at the point where I was about to give up on people and trusting and believing in people.
Yeah.
Here comes this guy, who made me believe in people.
Yeah. That's important. That's important.
Yeah, because I was being taken advantage of all my life.
Yeah, and so, and it'll tend to make a person very cynical,
right?
Which is not healthy, we've been talking about transformation, and I always say that the only person who does not believe in people is somebody who has begun to not believe in themselves, and the only person who does not believe that people can change would be a person who's never been changed. I mean, it's just remarkable to me just that, you can't paint with all the broad brush, because even if God is going to help somebody, it's going to be through another person. And so you met somebody there who kind of helped restore your faith in people, that people could be, God could use somebody to minister to you. Yeah, that's good. So again, you're tuned in to All Hands on Deck, and we're here with Brother Stephen Jackson, who has an absolutely fabulous company, Global Community Associates, who has a tremendous story. And I understand you work with a lot of young people. So what do you think of some of the biggest needs of some of the young people that you work with?
Well, I want to share with you the foundations of the company, and it'll put it in perspective. The Global Community Associates we specialize in youth development programming, like I was telling you earlier, but we're based in for the 4 cornerstones, which are perpetual learning, truth, common values, and progress. And each one of those cornerstones comes from a perspective, a view from which you're looking in order to get these cornerstones are honesty, knowledge, connectivity, and betterment. And those are the perspectives of the cornerstones. But the cornerstones, they are the perpetual learning quadrant of the cornerstone, because it's four different quadrants. The first one with perpetual learning, that's mental. The second one is truth, and that's spiritual, because truth is a spirit. The third one is the cornerstone of common values. That's how we connect with each other. That's how you and I connect, and that's
how we create connect. Community.
Yes, and that's emotional. That's why it's sometimes the most difficult to maneuver this space. And the last one is where we all want to get, and that's progress. And that's a cornerstone of from the perspective of betterment, and that's physical movement. So I have a restorative background, so I do restorative justice and peace circles, and then I have African descent. So this is just, I'm going back to the roots of where I come from. And that's how I'm able to engage with people of different walks. I serve on many different boards in my community in different places, so I'm able to engage with people on many different levels. But the question was, what is the greatest needs of some of the kids that you've had to service, and that you find that in some of the programs? Empowerment versus, like my mentor Robert Simmons says, a social empowerment versus a social welfare model. We've been using a social welfare model, which is we're just giving you things. We're trying to help you. Right. Hierarchical. The social empowerment is seeing the value in someone and sharing it with them, and teaching them that they actually do have value, versus a deficit model, which a lot of times, especially African Americans or Black or whatever you want to call the lost people, that's what model is used in most situations, as a deficit model. What's wrong with you, and what can we do to help you?
Yes, we want to save you.
Yes.
And it's a lot of that going on in the communities. I think I read somewhere that the MacArthur Foundation is being challenged because only 1% of their grants actually go to African American led programs in black communities.
May I have value?
Absolutely.
So the thing with that, that's that social welfare model. We don't have to beg anyone for anything. I started my own business. I'm a so-called ex-con. I build business. I build people. I build companies. I build communities. We can do things ourselves. What we have to start doing is investing in our own communities. When you have ownership of something, you have pride in it. And when you're in your own community and you know that's your aunt or Nook's aunt down the street, that's her candy store, we know that we need to protect that space. We know that it has value. That's what we have to start doing. We don't have to beg anyone for money. We are the biggest spenders on the planet. So if we start spending,
we consume, don't we?
Yes, we do. So if we start spending
all the brands,
yes,
as Brother Jesse Williams shared at the BET Awards, we wear the brands.
Yes, yes. You don't see me wearing brands. I wear my brand, and if I do wear a brand, I support it.
Yeah,
full-hearted. So I do youth development work. So I build youngsters, and they add more value to my life than I do to theirs.
Absolutely.
That's just the fact.
It's a brilliant generation, isn't it? They run
circles around me, but they keep me sharp. They keep me sharp.
But you would say that their greatest need, what do you think, personally, that they bring is
self-esteem.
Self-esteem, that's what I would think.
Self-esteem, just because.
Say, not the deficit, but their perceived deficit within themselves. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And when you've been taught to hate yourself and everyone else mistreats you, and then you start mistreating each other, and then people have issues when you start mistreating each other. So the violence that is overrepresented and over-portrayed in Chicago was learned behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Learned behavior.
And it's interesting you brought out, Mr. Jackson, that say I remember, late 70s, we literally would have, 900 to 1,000 murders in Chicago a year. Of course, it was more people.
Mm-hmm.
And now, 600 or 700 is 600 or 700 too many, but that's a bad year. Mm-hmm. And so, it begs the question, the hype. There's the violence, and then there's the hype around the violence. And one of the things that I think is probably worst about it is what it has done in terms of debilitating black people's self-confidence. If we really understood what Chicago is and was in black America. I'm trying to remember who I was reading. It might have been Ta-Nehisi Coates, I think. But he was just, Chicago is the undisputed capital of black America. So there's no accident that Barack Obama comes from this base, or that the first African American since Reconstruction congressman to be elected to Congress comes out of the Black Belt on the south side of Chicago in 1929, or that Jesse moves here and starts a movement, or that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his base was here, or that Muhammad Ali moves here to be close. There's this DuSable founds it, right? Yeah. So it's destined, right? And so, this being the 100th anniversary of the Great Migration, it is absolutely painful to see what is happening to the psychic of a once proud people in Chicago. That has been one of the most incredible concentrations of Africans in the diaspora, Chicago.
I see the other side of that, though. I see the value, and I see the young people in Inglewood, in Roseland, in Austin, in Lawndale. I see young brothers coming around sitting in Peace and Little Village, back of the yards. I see brothers coming around in book circles, reading. I see people who families who have been victims of murders being able to face the people who murdered them and try to reconcile this is what's happening across Chicago that you won't see on the news. These are things that I'm bearing witness to, like, and a lot of people around Chicago are bearing witness to. So like, I understand there are some bad things that are happening, but I see the good things,
and they're being magnified.
They are,
and that my point was that it is working a number on the psychic of Africans in Chicago, African Americans, because all we hear is part of the undercurrent. And I promise you there's several major little stories coming out because, major media chains are working this story. African Americans saying, I'm leaving Chicago. I'm getting out of Chicago. And that's when you know that the hype is working its purpose. Because, yeah, absolutely.
We can pay attention to history. If we pay attention to history in other major cities, the Great Migration, 100 years, right?
Absolutely.
Now we're migrating back to the suburbs,
and the South,
and the greater white majority is coming back into the city.
Yes,
if you look at the gentrification,
absolutely,
of the major cities, it's evident.
Is that a good thing?
The jury is out.
Well,
the jury is out.
Yes,
I don't know. I can't.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
I don't know. I think that. Well, no, it's not. Because I'm looking at the West Side.
I don't think
because
it is
the West
either.
Side is the last destination. You can look at South. It's happening on the South, right near Stateway Garden,
Absolutely.
where Stateway used to be, all up and down 31st.
Yes.
If you look around, all the places where the Henry Hornets, all of the
public housing has been torn down.
And then if you look at it, the majority of the people who have been replaced in these spaces don't look like the population, and the property value has gone up.
Absolutely, and, gentrification.
Yes. So if you look at the West Side, if we start converging back to the West Sides and to the South Sides and stop believing in the hype that's being perpetrated. The other point that I wanted to add before I say that is Hitler spent 1 year. He spent a 1 year campaign
of propaganda.
So you see the propaganda that's being promoted every day, and how long this has been going on.
Absolutely.
And he did 1 year before he did the atrocities that he did.
Year after year. And it's in the psychic of people.
Just scale. Just look at comparison. The comparative analysis on propaganda, and you see the propaganda that's going on right now in the United States, in the Western Hemisphere. We have to use our brains. That's just what it is. I spend an hour a day reading. I spend an hour a day writing because I'm a writer. Like, we have to start doing things that will better ourselves and start applying them. That's what I learned in prison. How to apply things to my lives, how to create habits. One of the most pivotal books I read was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I started creating positive habits after that. And would you believe it or not, the gang chief of my gang told me to start reading and start going to school.
Absolutely.
When you would think that a gang member would be throwing me a knife and saying, go stab this guy, go do this or go do that, but he didn't do that at all. He told me to go to school. He said, you're going to be incarcerated for this time, you need to fill in those gaps. Because when you go back to school, when you get a job, you can say, I was away at school.
Mm-hmm. And better yourself. I mean, I think you become a prime example, as we see in the autobiography of Malcolm X, of what it means to take whatever we've been given and learn how to turn that in our pain into power. And so thank you. We didn't get a chance to get to several other questions, but I tell you, absolutely fascinating guest that we've had today, Mr. Stephen Richardson. He is the CEO.
Stephen Jackson.
I know
Global
Richardson.
Community Associates. You can go online
Yes.
at globalcommunityassociates.com, and you also can like us on Facebook at Global Community Associates, and we're at Global GBL Community on Instagram. So.
All right. And do you have a telephone number you want to give out?
I can be emailed at info@globalcommunityassociates.com or sjackson@globalcommunityassociates.com. That's sjackson@globalcommunityassociates.com.
That's Stephen Jackson.
Yes, sir.
And Global Community Communications. Thank you so much. We are associates, Global Community Associates. We're wrapping up now. Again, this has been All Hands on Deck. And I'm sitting in for Reverend Ira Ackery. And this, of course, this half hour put on by GSJ Family Life Center. Always good to talk to you, the television audience, and do have a good day and have a safe and positive summer.
Peace.
Take care. Peace.